All right, today we're diving into the story of a huge player in the palm oil industry, Triputra Agro Prasada. You'll see it called TAPG. We're going to look at this really critical 4-year stretch, when the whole world was basically turned on its head, and see how this agricultural giant managed to navigate all that chaos. And really, that brings us to the big question, right? How does a massive company like this deal with a global pandemic, supply chains just falling apart, and crazy weather, and somehow still manage to grow? I mean, how do you not just survive, but actually come out stronger? That's the story we're digging into. So let's start at the beginning. Okay, so first, let's rewind to 2020. What a year. It was just one challenge after another, right? And for a company like TAPG, man, those challenges were coming from every single direction. Yeah, TAPG was basically hit with a perfect storm. I mean, on one side, you've got the COVID-19 crisis exploding globally, just creating this massive economic uncertainty. But then, on the other side, there was a more fundamental problem, a really bad, long-lasting drought. And look, for a plantation company, no water, that's a direct shot at the heart of your business. But their response? It was incredibly fast. Get this, the company started teaching its employees about the virus before the first official case was even reported in the country. They rolled out super strict health rules across all their remote plantations, they jumped on the whole work from home thing, and they even moved their big annual forum completely online for the very first time. You see, this wasn't just about reacting, it was about adapting on the fly to keep the business going and, most importantly, keep their people safe. And you can see the impact of that drought right here in the numbers. We're looking at fresh fruit bunches, or FFB. That's the raw product. It's literally the lifeblood of the company. And production took a really clear dip in 2020. Now, this wasn't some kind of operational failure. Nope. This was a direct result of the climate. And this dip is super important because it really sets the stage for the comeback story we're about to see. All right, so let's jump into our next section and see what happened after that really tough year. We're going to fast forward a bit and look at how the company took that dip in production and turned it into a pretty amazing story of growth. And wow, what a turnaround it was. By 2024, production had bounced back to an incredible 2.95 million tons. Now, here's what makes that number so impressive. They did it even with ongoing climate challenges. That tells you a story of real operational resilience. It's about getting smarter with farming, building better infrastructure, and basically finding ways to handle whatever the weather throws at you. And you see that same recovery story in the financials. Just look at the change from 2023 to 2024. Current assets are up by a third, total assets are growing steadily. But the real showstopper? It's the cash flow from operations. It more than doubled, a massive 106% jump. The big takeaway here is that this isn't just about growing more fruit. It's about building a much stronger, more financially stable company. But the story of a modern company like this, it's not just about production numbers and profit anymore. It's also, and this is huge, about sustainability. And for TAPG, this isn't some side project or an afterthought. It's actually woven right into the very core of their strategy. Okay, so you've probably heard this term ESG thrown around a lot, right? Environmental, social, and governance. It can sound kind of complicated, but at its heart, it's actually pretty simple. It's just a way of looking at a company not only by how much money it makes, but also by its impact on the environment, how it treats its people and communities, and, how well it's actually run. And this vision statement really nails their whole approach. Green plantation for better quality life. See how that phrase connects what they do, the plantations, directly to a bigger purpose? Improving lives, for people and for the planet. It's basically the why behind all their ESG work. And this isn't just empty words on a poster. They're actually doing stuff. For example, they have this DMPA program. It helps stop land fires by helping local communities economically so they have better options than slash and burn farming. They're also conserving a huge 600-hectare forest. They're using eco-friendly pest control. They're even turning waste back into organic fertilizer. I mean, these are real, concrete actions that have a real impact. And people are taking notice. This timeline here shows a really consistent push to get certified by outside groups. They've earned major certifications like ISPO and RSPO, and those are a really big deal. They're how you prove to the world that you're doing things the right way. And then they capped it all off with a Platinum ESG award in 2024. This clearly isn't a one-time thing. It's a serious, long-haul commitment. So all of this, the resilience, the growth, the focus on sustainability, none of that just happens by accident, right? It has to be built on a really strong internal culture and a very clear set of rules for how you do business. At the very core of the company is this thing they call the Tripotra DNA. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a cultural blueprint. It's this set of shared values, things like integrity and compassion, that are designed to make sure that no matter who you are or what you do at the company, everyone is pulling in the same direction with the same ethical compass. And this DNA, it comes to life through their commitment to what's called good corporate governance, or GCG. It's built on these 5 pillars, which are really the foundation of any ethical business: being transparent, being accountable, being responsible, independent, and fair. In simple terms, it just means being open, owning your actions, following the rules, and treating everybody fairly. But the key here, and this is so important, is making sure these values aren't just words on a wall. The company's own reports really stress the active role of their board of commissioners. It's their job to keep a close eye on management and make absolutely sure that every single decision lines up with these core principles of good governance and long-term sustainability. All right, so for our final section, let's look ahead. They've weathered the storms of the last few years, so what's next for TAP? What does the future hold? Look, the company is realistic. They know the global economy is still a bit rocky, but their outlook is actually pretty optimistic. They see a lot of strength in their home market, and they're pointing to helpful government policies as major reasons to be positive about future growth. And it's not just wishful thinking. They have a clear roadmap. First, they're planning to move downstream. What that means is they don't want to just sell raw palm oil anymore. They want to make more finished products from it. They're also looking to turn waste management into its own business. And this is a big one. They're getting behind the government's B40 biodiesel program, which is going to seriously ramp up demand right at home. And tying all of this together is a big push for more technology, more digitalization, to make every single part of their operation smarter and more efficient. So when you look at the whole story of TAPG from 2020 to 2024, it really offers one possible answer. It's this incredible case study of how facing huge pressure can actually build resilience and speed up the move towards a more balanced way of doing business. And that kind of leaves us with a bigger question to think about. As the world keeps demanding more from its resources, can corporations really, truly balance the needs of profit, people, and the planet? Is this what the future of business looks like?